Well, I'm so excited to be back with you, my husband. We're on episode 2 of the Gordon and Cherise Show. And can you believe we actually made it through the first episode? And here we are.
I think we did pretty well. We haven't thrown anything at each other. And I think we have a lot of thoughts that are ruminating in our minds that we'd like to share with people. Mm-hmm. And I'm excited because I know that I wrote something up that maybe we should work on today. Sure. And you had a great way this morning of smashing me and throwing all that away. So I know you have questions.
I think we should take it back from where you were at health-wise in the first podcast and talk about, one thing that stands out to me that you said in your worst flare-up of reflex sympathetic dystrophy that you had, you said that pain was not going to be the final signature our life.
That's right.
And boy, that I just have thought about that over the last week. And, I'm so proud of you because you really have broken all the rules about pain in your life. And I would love for people to understand, from that point of the RSD and when the doctor said you wouldn't make it, and we did endure, and your body overcame that, I think, by the grace of God and by a lot of love, a lot of faith. I guess one thing I would love to share with people is, was there just really a magic moment where there was a prayer and it all went away forever? Do you still have pain?
Yeah. There was not a magic pill that I took that got rid of the pain. Mm-hmm. I still have it today. The RSD went into remission, but more importantly, as strong as I was and we were as a family in our faith, and that includes our sons Jake and Chris at that particular time, it was a start of a long journey, a hard journey that took a lot of courage, and we also made a lot of mistakes. And so I know for myself, I fell into a time of being a little more compulsive with my life.
So what does that mean?
That means that my body was full of so much chaos, so many systems not working correctly, that the only way that I knew how to get back into the sense of normal or functioning was to become a lot more ordered with my life. But what happened is that you also can succumb to different things. I was on heavy medication that helps you to gain weight, but the next thing you know, and it's not intentional, you're eating certain foods that you shouldn't eat. Mm-hmm. And over that time, I gained 65 pounds.
And talk about what time frame that was. How many years did this start happening?
Oh, I gained, after my first surgery, I gained a lot of weight. I gained like 30 pounds within the first year. And then I probably added another 35 pounds after the RSD episode. So different things in my life that I thought were taken care of, that I thought I had faith, that I thought we were living good, constructive lives. Other things, it was like foxes in the hen house. Things came into our lives that I didn't see. So weight gain was one of them. Another one would probably be I was a little more compulsive with spending. I needed more things to make me feel better. Another aspect is I was probably too rigid in some of my organizational habits.
I don't think that's changed at all. I mean, really.
Cherise. Okay, I know. You've labeled me as OCD. But I think that I was trying to gain control over my life, even though I claimed to have all this faith, which I did have, but it was misused.
That's a good way to put it.
Some of it's kind of like the apostles when they were in the boat. And Jesus said, go ahead and cast the net to the right side. Well, I was casting the net to the left side of my life, not the right side where there was a chance for us and our family to be a part of change.
Mm-hmm. So it was like you were in the boat, you were with Jesus.
Right.
You had the net, but you kept saying, I'm going to go my way.
Right.
Because I know that there might be something over here that I can control. There's something that might bring me comfort because I can't escape the chaos that's in my body.
That's right.
And so as chaos was in your body, food became comfort.
That's right.
Spending became comfort, and it was very subtle, truthfully. It was almost like the frog going into the cold water, then to hot water analogy. I remember just watching you over the years gain the weight that you did, but you also said, there's nothing I can do about it. And I never, ever cut you down. That was one thing that I realized in that time in our marriage, that I felt like the guy, he's doing everything he can do. I'm looking at you saying he, but it's true. There is nothing else that you could do at that time but just survive and endure. And yes, the RSD was in remission, but there were other, you have spinal stenosis and some of the other things that you were going through. It just wouldn't give you any relief. And you weren't trying to escape it by alcohol or heavy drugs or anything like that. You weren't doing that stuff. So really it was more of the acceptable things that can be done, right? Like the gluttony part and trying to control those foods. And I have to say one thing I do appreciate about food, though.
What's that, Cherise?
You did, at that time, you actually cooked for our family a lot. And I did appreciate that. And we had a golden retriever too at that point. So every time you would buy a steak and grill it, you would get an extra steak for our dog.
I know, honey.
And so really and truly all was forgiven because she was well fed too. And the boys were happy, but really you were still holding back just a whole lot of misery, just a whole lot of that chaos. And it just didn't get under control. But what switch happened in you? Something changed through this process.
Well, two things. Number one, when you're trying to have the strength, even by faith, to not allow your pain to seep into the family, to seep into your habits, when you're doing that as much as you can, our little kids at that time, and you as my wife, you were still observing and absorbing everything that I was dealing with. And I thought that I was helping you not deal with chronic pain. But you were dealing with chronic pain. So the reality is it doesn't affect just one person. And I probably had the biggest epiphany of my life, and this was in 2006, is that here I was, a doctor. I knew all the right things to do. I was extremely health conscious once in my life. And I got out of the shower one day. I was feeling so miserable. I was so tired. You know this. I did not get a full night's sleep for how many years?
Yeah.
Okay. So I always was tired. My eyes were always bloodshot. You saw how puffy I was every day.
You started every day completely depleted.
Every day.
Like there was no energy, and I never knew how you would make it through the day, but you did. Every day.
I was the same way. I would get out of the shower going, okay, that's my energy for the day.
Right.
I have nothing else. Now, can I read my scripture? What basics do I have to do? How can I help you with the business? And I was absolutely worn out.
But something really changed, honey, in that 2006 time.
Right. I was standing in front of the mirror. I looked at myself. I dropped my towel. Don't laugh, Cherise. Okay, don't do it. I dropped my towel. I looked at myself and I said, okay, how can I be a part of change? Our society looks at words like evolution and metamorphosis, and we change words, we substitute words for the hard word of change. How can I be part of this change that we have because of God's grace? How can I be a part of it and not just be a victim? Do I have to spend the rest of my life just reading the Bible and praying thousands of prayers, and maybe there's a miraculous healing that happens for 0.001% of the population? How could I be part of change? And that was the epiphany that I had. And so I just cried out to God right there in front of the mirror, naked, open, wanted to expose my life again. I wanted to repent. I know that that's not a popular word, but I wanted my mindset to change and move towards Him and better living. And God spoke back to me.
Well, what did you say to Him, first of all?
I said to Him, thank you for your grace. I confess my own sin. My body is pathetic, and I'm using generous words right now on the podcast, but I was very raw and real and intentional with God. And I had desires of my heart that were not fulfilled by my faith.
You said something else, but you don't have to say it.
Go ahead, Sharice.
Didn't you say something like, I'm a fat pig?
Yes, Sharice.
Did you use those words?
Thank you, Sharice.
Honestly, that was about as raw as it gets. That was very bold. I
did.
Because I would have never, and I never used those kind of words about where you were at. I didn't even feel that about you. Like, I saw so much of your inner man. I really wasn't focused on how much weight you had really gained.
Right.
And honestly, if you were sitting here right now, the size that you were then, it was almost like there was two Gordons, you know?
Well, my shirt size was double XL. Mm-hmm. My waist size was 46. Okay, and I'm 5'7". And my cholesterol levels and triglyceride levels were off the charts. And so everything happened slowly, but gigantic steps of basically deconstruction were occurring in my body.
So after that raw honesty with God, you said he spoke back to you.
He spoke back.
What did he say?
He gave me a vision. And two things. Number one, I saw myself on a treadmill, thin and active and walking. And then number two, I saw myself speaking to thousands of people. And so God has already shown me these things, and these things have already happened in our lives. And I have to say with you, Sharice, when I said to you, we're going out today to buy a treadmill. And again, I'm still high maintenance, so we're not going to get a cheap treadmill. We're going to spend the most money on a treadmill and get the best thing possible. But you said to me, no matter what I could do and how much I was limping at the time and how much I was groaning with pain, you said, okay, I love you. Let's go get one. And so we got the treadmill. We got the right tennis shoes. We got the right clothes.
But it was excruciating from my perspective to watch you initially on that treadmill, because you were falling down. Even if we would go to the movies, you were losing your ability to it wasn't that you were losing your ability to walk, but I think at times there was a disconnect in your nervous system and you would fall to the ground.
That's right.
And you would even I mean, for the very beginning years of our marriage, I will never forget that you used to count your steps when we would be in the parking lot to go into the grocery store, and you would look at the closest place to park because you knew that too many steps would cause you complete exhaustion and it would exasperate your pain.
Right.
And so to see the treadmill, it was such a moment, and from my end, of hope for you. And at the same time, it was absolutely terrifying because I didn't want one more thing to riddle your body with pain. So it was hard, but I did support it. And I will remember for the rest of my life watching you at the beginning, and you were very, very determined from the beginning when you got on that treadmill, but you weren't going very fast. You got on and you walked as much as you could walk, but you were pretty exhausted and you went pretty slow at first. But you did have a vision that was so much bigger than anything that anybody else could see. And God gave you that vision, but it's like that net analogy. You did put the net on the other side. You put it in the place that wasn't known. You put it in a place that you had to put complete trust in that moment, not with anybody else, but between you and God. If he gave you that vision, he's going to give you the strength to carry that vision out. So I will always remember the beginning of that. And then you became like Speedy Gonzalez on that treadmill. You couldn't stop.
Right. I think for me, there's one scripture that changed my life in 2006. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to read part of it here, okay? And it's when Jeremiah is speaking in chapter 15, and he poses a question to God that really brought up a lot of the doubts that I had. Even though I believe in God, it just didn't feel like my faith was real to me regarding change. Mm-hmm. And here's the verse. Why has my pain been perpetual and my wound incurable, refusing to be healed? Will you indeed be to me? In other words, he's speaking to God. Will you be to me like a deceptive stream with water that's unreliable? In other words, do I have to look at this stream that's not going to be overflowing, and it's probably, I could walk a mile down the road and have one leg go right over the stream and it's not really there. It's just a couple drops on the ground. Are you going to be like that to me, God?
Just another mirage in life.
Right. Is this another switch and bait that you have planned for me?
Mm-hmm. I'm hurting enough.
I'm hurting enough. And the Lord spoke back, and I love this. Therefore says the Lord, if you return, then I will restore you. And those words hit me. And at first I was extremely confused because my response was, return? I'm in the scripture 6 to 8 hours a day. How many Bibles did I go through in studying? Half a dozen Bibles with different translations. Okay.
The OCD comes out again.
The OCD came out. I was extremely disciplined with my life. And part of that discipline also helped me become a doctor. But my response to God was, what does that mean, return? And it was, don't be suspicious of who I am. And it's time to cleanse your heart. It's time to still give all of you to me so that you can be part of change and you can be used. And the next verse is, before me you will stand. And if you extract the precious from the worthless, in other words, speak the good things that you know. Don't speak the things that are doubting and are hurting you about pain. You will become my spokesman. And that's been part of my calling and purpose for several years. So that verse changed me in 2006. And you saw that change.
I did.
And you saw that determination. I said, I'm not stopping. So we got the treadmill. I'm on the treadmill. And of course, a week later, as I'm starting to walk faster, what do I develop? A Morton's neuroma between my toes on my left foot, which is extremely painful. And I looked at it and smiled. And because of my previous history, I adjusted myself and I had tears and I got back on the treadmill. And I was on the treadmill for 13 straight years at 6 days a week. And I did not miss one day.
No, you didn't.
No matter what the situation was, even after having kidney surgery. I maintained that. And that time on the treadmill was being part of change. And it was my time with God. And I wanted to be restored. I wanted to be active. I wanted my body to get back to its original factory specifications.
As close as they could be.
As close as they could be. And I wanted to create this newness in our life. God was creating this for us. And it was extremely important for me, for our families as well.
So literally and figuratively, you were walking out your pain.
Absolutely.
And I'll tell you what, it took me maybe a year or so after you started doing it.
Okay, see, this is something about our memories. It took 2 years, Shreese.
Okay, whatever.
Okay.
Who's counting?
Okay.
Really? Really? But anyway, you did inspire me eventually to get on that treadmill myself.
That's right.
And to optimize health. Because when you're the spouse of one who is hurting, I think one of the biggest things that I started doing early on in our marriage is I would internalize the pain too. It's not that I carried your pain, but I carried my own. And it was very hidden. I tried to protect you from my pain too, because you had enough going on. But it's easy to get in a corner and feel isolated as the spouse who is suffering alongside of the spouse who really is the physical sufferer. So emotionally, I had felt pretty stuck for a while. And exercise. It was something that really brought about another dose of life inside of me too. So we started doing it together, not at the same time. That would be weird. But we were both on the treadmill. And I think that it did put this whole new world in our life of we can still maintain fitness, even in pain. It's, I have somebody that I'm working with right now that is a precious client of mine. And she's going through some extremely debilitating chronic issues. And I have to say the thing that inspired me the most the other day out of what she said is do what you can for as long as you can.
I totally agree.
And I think the idea of the treadmill, like you weren't doing all you could until God gave you a vision that there's something more that you could be doing. And it was very simple. That's the amazing thing about God is I don't think he makes it that complicated. He works with what is right in front of us. And so it was so simple, but so profound. Walk out your pain. Keep going. Stay. And you also had that OCD part of you came out again, but I actually loved looking at it. You had something written. At the time, our basement wasn't finished, but what did you put so that you could look at it the whole time you were walking on the treadmill? You drew something on the wall.
I wrote 3 sentences. Don't stop. Stay in the middle. Stay away from the edges. And I wrote those down because they pertain to every other aspect of my inner life. Mm-hmm. Don't get on the edges with risks that move you towards out of the center of walking straight to God. Don't stop because the voices in your mind say to stop. Keep going. Let your faith work out to its fullest. James has a great message about having joy in your suffering, which at first I had a very difficult time with. But I love the part where once we develop endurance with our faith, we reach that point of perseverance and then endurance. Mm-hmm. God says you'll lack in nothing. Instead of needing all the things that I needed by my compulsive behaviors, those things are vanished. Mm-hmm. I don't need certain foods. I don't need certain material things. Charisse, I don't need certain comforts like I used to. And God is continuing to work on me in those areas. But I still have the pain that erupts. I had a rough night last night. I mean, look at Colorado. We had 90-degree temperature, and now we have snow on the ground. Yep. So that barometric pressure changes makes a big change with my health.
It does.
So when my pain is firing off, it's not like I need to get online and compulsively buy something.
Not anymore.
Yes.
Okay.
And thank you, Charisse. But you get to see your faith work out where it becomes a trust issue. Your faith, you move into actually really depending and trusting in God. Mm-hmm. And so that's the point that was exciting for me that started in 2006, and it was with the small steps.
Yep. And going back to Jeremiah, those words, and, is God going to be faithless? Are you going to be, a dirty stream in life? He's not. And I love that those verses gave you that much strength at that time, and they still do today.
Absolutely.
I still see that. And there's something else that I thought about when you were talking about that. And I thought about it earlier today too, before we started the show, but I was thinking about how can a really good God, because this is the elephant in the room question. How can a really good God allow bad things to happen to his people? For instance, how can a good God allow you to suffer? That's the unspoken question that everybody wants an answer to, right? And I thought about our grandson this morning, and I thought about the fact that at 4 years old, yes, he's on a BMX bike and he has no training wheels, right? I mean, we are so proud of this kid because
go JJ.
He is just so cool. Okay. And I mean, he's on this bike, no training wheels, 4 years old. And the thing is, he can easily fall because he's still learning to ride. And guess what? His parents absolutely love him. His dad is right there with him, but his dad isn't riding the bike for him. He's on the bike. And when he falls and he gets hurt, that's part of life. It's part of the human experience. Suffering is part of learning how to be on a bike. But his parents do love him. Why? What's the evidence of that love? They're letting him get on the bike, and they're letting him experience the freedom to fall and the freedom to ride. And so there's a part of me learning again through the lens of our grandchildren, right? That a loving God allows us to get on the bike of life. He allows us the freedom. He doesn't put us in a cage when we're born and not allow us to experience the world. We're in the world. We're just not of it, right? We're a part of this experience on earth. So pain is a part of it. But as a loving parent, God is with us through every step. He's watching us. If we were on the bike, He's going to be the one to bandage us when we fall. And He bandages the inside of us, our soul. And we may still have the physical wounds, but everything internally is set with His love, and it's reset again. So I've seen that in you. I see that you've had the freedom to fall and the freedom to get back up again.
JJ, thank you for the motivation. Okay.
It's true.
But, and it relates to this, regarding our faith. I think a lot of time, too many Christians and too many people that have so much pain, and it's legitimate, Charisse, they have nothing left. Mm-hmm. And they've already thought to themselves, I've already botched all of my second chances, my second, third, fourth, fifth chances. My pain that started out as achy and burning, by golly, it's now seeping into other systems of my body, and I'm getting worse and worse, and I'm deteriorating. And they accept it, they reject it, they go through a long-term grief process. And I think there's a point, part of 2006, and I hope many more people encounter the same type of thing, is that you have to ask yourself a question. Am I going to be part of the change? Mm-hmm. Am I going to be on the bicycle like JJ, even though I might fall again and get hurt? Am I going to be part of the change that comes from faith? And that's the encouragement. You can be part of the change. And then what happens is Scripture is real. The character of Christ is real. The way you look at other people, you're more compassionate. Your love and intimacy is more real. You get more excited. You get more joy about different aspects of God, even though you're totally exhausted and deal with pain. So thanks, JJ. So the idea of being part of that change is so vitally important for the person who's walking out their faith. It's much more than just, I read my Bible study today, I said my prayers, I'm in my little corner, now I can go back to bed. Mm-hmm. Now, there's some days that you have to do that. But there's plenty of other days, and if this pertains to you and you're not going against doctor's orders, where you can start walking out different things for your life by faith. That's God right. will help you with pattern promptings, and He'll help you with the Word and people around you. So you have a chance to actually see the flowers, not just the thorns on the rose. So that's what's so beautiful about walking your faith out and being part of the change.
Mm-hmm. I love it.
Yeah, me too. I think our time is almost expired. So
leave us with a word of wisdom. You've got something.
Well, I wrote down the passion to transcend your limitations starts with a change in the way you think. Start thinking about different possibilities. Mm. Ask God the tough questions. Read the Word and come up with new things. A lot of us get stuck in our pain. It feels like we're in cement blocks and we're going nowhere. Mm. It's time to let the shackles break off your legs and start walking out with different possibilities.
That's good. That's really good. And there are abundant possibilities once you can see that.
Layers and layers and layers.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So on the next show, let's even touch a little bit more about how we communicate. And let's keep getting into those questions about suffering and the unfairness of it and those different things.
Good.
Okay.
I'll see you then.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.